Did Jeffrey Epstein perform occult rituals? Was his island temple on Little St. James used to make satanic offerings? Why would the world's elite political, business, and scientific minds gather on an island to perform such an act when these very same people tell us to go to church or be smart, listen to science, and be an atheist without the hopes of God? Now, when conspiracy theorists take a look at Epstein's Island's temple, they immediately jump to the conclusion of Satan, fallen angels, Baal, Moloch, Lucifer. These simple associations sound good for rallying against the elite, but fall short in delivering us the facts. The truth is, Epstein was conjuring something far worse than any of names listed. The evidence found on the island suggests an occult operation that the Bible cannot help us uncover. We are going to need forensic occultism to decode Epstein's Island temple. I am Solomon Pakal. I am a historian. I have been a practicing occultist for over 20 years. I had found Jesus and rejected all magic, then came back to magic after realizing that both the church and mystical texts are lying to us. Join me today if you are tired of simple superstitions surrounding this island temple. If you are serious about the mystery surrounding Little St. James, let us begin. If you want to support my work and research, subscribe to my Substack, the Mystery Codex. Okay, this is the part where we get into the symbolism. Everything gets a little bit crazy. If you thought it was crazy leading up to now, fasten your seatbelts because we are going to be diving into what I believe is the most important esoteric or occult symbol to be discovered in the 21st century. Because the implications I have to raise from the beginning, they're going to be illustrated for us when we decipher the signature seal of what this group really thought about themselves and the world. If we turn our attention to the ceiling mural has a Western zodiac depiction. It has a striking resemblance to a 1570 fresco at the Palace of Palazzo Farnese at Caprarola in Italy. It was painted in the 1570s, and it depicts constellations such as Leo and other zodiac figures across a deep blue celestial sky. So there's nothing completely out of the ordinary here. It is a very detailed and articulate depiction of the Western astrological system. But take note of that the details are all correct. They're all up to snuff when it comes to knowing your correspondences and like the more predictive nature of astrology, as well as the more thaumaturgic or straight up magical applications of astrology. If you haven't deduced by now with all of the things that we have gotten through the temple leading up to here, these people were professionals. Like, you could just say it's rich people spending money on a bunch of random things, and they just kind of arrange themselves to being a professional standard of occultism. But I'm willing to wager that these people were professional about all the details when it came to their magical operation. We take the two pillar systems, we take the geometries, we take simply the temple, like having a dedicated ritual place. And now we put it underneath the zodiac. You are orienting the ritual space for maximum occult ritual operations. That is professional. That is purposeful. And that is powerful. That is much more than the average, even lodges kind of do. They may have kind of a format, but it is not up to the quality of what this is. if we take a focused look at a central symbol within this mural, we are going to find that most important symbol. So let us focus our sights over here on this ship that is sailing the celestial sea. Here's an up-close image of the ship. This ship is them, the human conscious voyagers in this elaborate temple mythos that they have constructed. As you can see down here by these letters, Argo Navies. The Argo Navies is the ship in direct reference to the myth of Jason and the Argonauts. No surprises amongst secret societies that the myth of Jason's quest for the Golden Fleece has been used as a metaphor for initiation, spiritual kingship, and a divine right of providence. The Golden Fleece is taken from a ram, which represents Aries. This could represent the pre-Piscean age. Esoterically, the Aries age was an era of fire and divine rulership. A lot of rule by force, by raw force. And the construction of the first temple. Very, very important to a lot of Western esoteric societies. You know, the first temple. So that era, bookmark that. So they are going out of their way to establish identity with an order that predates Christendom. But that does not answer all the questions. As we're going to see, there's definitely some implementations of Christendom. The Argo Navi itself was not simply a ship, but a vehicle of spiritual conquest. Specifically here on Epstein's ceiling, is not simply sailing through an ocean, but the waters that define destiny itself across time and myth to deliver its found treasure. Now let's dissect the key aspects of the ship found on the ship that can tell us more clues about who these people are. How do they mythologically and metaphysically register themselves? Because that is what is embodied here. Out of all of the conceptual and highly cosmic elements throughout the temple, this is the human correspondence. This is the thing that says that the one thing that humans can actually venture on amongst all of the more cosmic and celestial correspondences, the pillars, the oblak architecture. This is the only thing that actually denotes a human aspect. So we know from a mythological storytelling perspective that this is being used to describe the people that would come into this chamber and to act on the rituals. One of the featured emblems is a blue Star of David. Obviously, in the color scheme of the temple itself, but also the modern-day Israeli flag. Interesting choice that it may be specifically associating itself with the modern state of Israel. Now, the Star of David is layered with a multitude of meanings throughout time, but the color scheme is specifically blue and white. Now, I did consult a friend of mine who is of Jewish origin and is also a practicing occultist. And they suggested a possible theory could be that the Star of David here is simply used as a protection talisman on the voyage. I'm not ruling that out. I do believe that when you start seeing these other emblems, though, I believe these emblems are meant to be more banners and identity markators. But it, again, not to rule that out. And also, like a lot of emblems that have to do with identity, they typically take a bunch of protective symbolism and like arrange it to mean like the house of whatever, right? The symbol placement is not discrete at all. It's almost as if it wants the viewer to see this. Now, Epstein, it's starting to come out for sure now, but he has a long and verifiable history with not just Israeli intelligence, but Israeli geopolitics, as well as other intelligence agencies. Let's be clear about that. But his connections with the Mossad are disproportionately greater than his relationships with other intelligence organizations. But it is not that simple as simply pointing the finger to Israel or the Jews and saying it's all of them. Because the scope of fully explaining all of the Israel dynamics is really beyond the scope of this presentation. But even within the Epstein files, we can see that even though Epstein was very, very invested in Israel, it was not always a clean-cut relationship. There is evidence within the files to suggest that Epstein may have had a falling out with Mossad and the Israeli government in 2017, per his emails with Deepak Chopra. But there is also the connection to be made of Ehud Barak in the Epstein files. Now, yes, he is in the Epstein files and he had a close relationship with Epstein, but Ehud Barak is a figure that was very big in the Israeli government who directly warns against messianic, essentially secret societies, if you will, within Israel that do not represent the entire opinions of the Jewish people or even the national state. So there's divisions to be had even amongst the upper echelons of politics and religion in Israel. So I want to inform you, and Ehud Barak is not the only one. There is Ari Ben Menashe, Norman Finkelstein, who writes about this. And these are Jewish individuals coming from Israel. I am not simply saying this to quell the reactionary tendency that you see that is going on in the world right now, of having some kind of, an anti-Semitic attitude towards like, it's been Israel pulling the strings all along. I'm not simply trying to quell that for the sake of like a social justice move here, because there are even people from my background that don't represent all the opinions of indigenous people, but you could call them radical. No one group of people is a monolith, but also because the evidence doesn't suggest that. And here's the, I counseled my friends that I had mentioned earlier, that if there are, including Epstein, who is Jewish too, what they are practicing here in this temple is not Judaism. It's not Judaism. So it can't simply be this writing off, it's the Jews. Just like that conspiratorial thinking, it's just the Masons. It's just Satan. It's never that simple. And these sources I mentioned, Finkelstein, Barak, Menashe, these are open sources, and they have been talking about these divisions in Israel for years. And they describe some of these divisions to be religiously fueled. Many of them, actually. I do not have enough evidence right now to completely tie it and tell you that's who I believe this emblem is referring to. That research is still ongoing, and as you can see, like the world, like there's this Epstein thing is still unfolding and will be unfolding for years. But we need to hold our horses before we start applying the label of the mastermind for all of this, just because we see some symbols and just because we see some emails and we think it's Baal worship, that wouldn't be Judaism anyway. So we can't label all of these people the antagonists. As you're going to see in these other symbols, it could not survive. This symbol here could not survive if the other symbols did not cooperate, perpetuate, and fund the idea that this entire symbol is trying to push. Moving on to the upward part of the ship, this emblem here has an uncanny resemblance to the Trump family crest, a shield marked by a central chevron configuration and 3 lion-like medallions with freckling elements. But wait, a critique might say, the Trump one has 2 chevrons. But as you can see from these examples that follow, colors, elements, textures, and even the number of chevrons seem to be negotiable in the symbols, as we can see. The one next to Donald Trump, where he's standing next to his family crest after unveiling the £1 million refurbishment of the Trump Turnberry Clubhouse at his golf course in Scotland, has 3 chevrons. They're textured, and they don't have lions, but they have stars and this double-headed griffin. And the one over here has blue chevrons, 2 of them with the lions and with freckles. And then this one has harder freckles with golden chevrons and has the lions. And even the top emblem here, you have an arrow caught, and then you have a spear held here by a lion figure. This one here has a sun and moon motif, it looks like, and it has that single chevron. My point is that the emblem, the details of this emblem are negotiable. They can fit a variety of ways and still mean the same thing to the people that it is important to. So is the crest specifically referencing Trump's family, or possibly even in an older ancestral claiming? As in, like, there's some rich house that like predates the modern era, and they're trying to claim some kind of relation to it. This red Crusader cross, now the next symbol, is a clear allusion to the Knights Templar, a typical ancestral claim amongst many secret societies. And we're talking about ancestral claiming here because there's so many secret societies, even the ones I've been a part of, where they want to claim some kind of ancient lineage, right? And I think I can speak uniquely to this because, like, there's rumors that my family descended from Maya kings. And that may or may not be true. But the thing is, a lot of these orders, they're not actually related to these things, but like essentially claiming the ancestry gives them some kind of historical based power by the way of narrative. In magic, we call it historiola, where you're invoking the names of like prophets or something, but they do it by essentially in relation to teams or societies that predates the modern era, so that it makes them feel good. It makes them feel important, and they feel like they have a right to whatever system and exclusive powers that those societies have had, and favor some kind of like just some kind of plot armor, essentially, going into as a narrative. And this one, the Knights Templar, like literally every secret society tries to claim the Knights Templar. The legendary order of monastic Christian soldiers that combined finance, esoteric knowledge, and military force. By the way, because Epstein was a founding member of the Trilateral Commission, which the basis of that is combining business and politics and leadership. So this idea of combining finances with esoteric knowledge, and by extension military force, isn't too foreign from these elites. And, probably like the Knights Templar, these delusions of grandeur, or these ideas of grandeur, they got billions of dollars, right? They find themselves as guardians of secret teachings with rumors of them keeping holy relics. This is the Knights Templar. They went to the Holy Land in the Crusades, gathered a bunch of holy relics. Some of them can even be tied to the bloodlines of Christ, the relics, like the Holy Grail and the Spear of Destiny, various splinters off the cross at Calvary. But this symbol in particular thickens the association of secret orders being linked to Epstein's operations, if not in a more general sense. Now, this split crest, I find to be the most thought-provoking, especially for me. And I think, without coming from an indigenous background, this symbol may have really been missed. This split crest seems to be a fusion of the Spanish and Portuguese Empire, specifically during the Age of Discovery, i.e. 1492, the beginnings of colonization on a world scale. This is positioning the ship and its crew as considering conquest and initiation as one and the same, creating solidarity with the empires of old, specifically the initial empires that would colonize the New World. This positions the actions of this group specifically opposed to indigenous peoples of the Americas and in line with the concept of colonialism. Why is this split crest not of Great Britain or France? Why are no other colonial powers like Belgium depicted? Why is it specifically the first two colonial superpowers that would carve up what would be North and South America? Here's a hint about what the answers to the test are that I keep alluding to, but when we wrap it all up, it will triple my point here. What we are dealing with are some kind of metaphysical invaders. And the answer isn't diving deeper into the Christian mythos that parries off of the Judaic mythos, that parries off of the Islamic mythos, and keeping this triangle of spiritual violence going. It's clearly telling us that I think ancestral practices, whether they be indigenous American or things from the East or things from West Africa, these ancestral practices are ways to counteract such magic that is taking place here. Because feeding into this, as we can see through the passage of time, has only led to more violence and colonization. And that seems to be the central theme here. Now, we can move on to these other symbols, and the remainder of the symbols seem to sigilize, let's keep that in mind, the sigilization of multiple symbols, sewing them together into a brand new meaning, a seal. But they sigilize modern and old motifs, perhaps banking bodies or old guilds. And there's clues, especially after the latest Epstein release, that one of these secret societies may be mentioned explicitly in the Epstein files. If you want a personalized tour into the powers of Mayan astrology, book your birth chart reading with me today at MayanMysterySchool.com. Over the course of our sessions, we will deep dive into your innate spiritual qualities, subconscious instincts, how to maximize your relationships with others, analyze your darkest shadows, and outline a path towards your greatest good, prosperity, and highest quality of life. Here I package it all up for you in a custom 60-page plus ebook, as if it's a personally channeled grimoire made just for you, complete with illustration, information, instruction, and ritual prompts for the next 5 years, all based upon your Maya telluric astrological timing. This is unlike any other manifestation, magic, esoteric, or occult coaching program or course program out there. The depth, rarity of Mayan ancestral practice expertise, and actionable results makes your Mayan destiny divination a one-of-a-kind experience. Due to the immersion involved, I can only take a few clients on at a time. I look forward to working together.